The morning sun filtered through the classroom windows, but for little Maya, the world had always been dark. She was 8 years old and had never seen a sunrise, never watched the leaves change color and fall, never looked into her mother's eyes. But Maya had learned to see the world in her own way. Through sounds, through touch, through the vibrations she felt when people walked past her, school was the hardest part of her day. Every morning her mother would walk her to the entrance, squeeze her hand 3 times, their secret way of saying, "I love you." And then Maya would tap her white cane against the familiar hallway floor, counting her steps to classroom to be 17 steps forward. Turn right, 12 more steps, and she was there. The other children didn't understand her. They stared when she used her cane. They whispered when she needed extra time to find her desk. Some of them were just curious, but others were cruel in the way that children can be when they don't know any better. "Why does she always wear those weird glasses?" one boy asked loudly during recess. "My mom says she can't see anything at all," another girl replied. "Not even us."
Yeah.
Pretended not to hear them. She had become very good at pretending. She would sit alone during lunch, her fingers tracing the raised dots in her braille books, losing herself in stories where she could be anyone, where nobody judged her for being different. But the loneliness ate away at her heart like a slow poison. She wanted friends. She wanted to be included in the games the other kids played. She wanted to laugh with them, share secrets, be normal. Instead, she was always the outsider, always the one left behind. One particularly bad day. A group of boys thought it would be funny to move her cane while she was sitting in class. When the bell rang and Maya reached for it, her hand found only empty air. Panic rose in her chest. Without her cane, she was truly lost. "Where is it?" she asked, her voice shaking. The boys snickered from across the room. The teacher, Mrs. Patterson, noticed immediately and retrieved the cane from where they had hidden it behind a bookshelf. She scolded the boys, but the damage was done. Maya felt the hot tears sliding down her cheeks. And she hated herself for crying in front of everyone. That afternoon, she came home quieter than usual. Her father was cooking dinner, and the smell of garlic and tomatoes filled their small apartment. He heard her come in and knew immediately that something was wrong. Fathers have a way of sensing these things. "Rough day, sweetheart?" he asked gently. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. Her father guided her to the kitchen table and sat beside her. He didn't push her to talk. He just sat there, his presence steady and comforting, until she was ready. I hate being different," Maya finally whispered. "I hate that I can't see. I hate that everyone treats me like I'm broken." Her father was quiet for a long moment. Then he took her small hand in his larger one. "You're not broken, Maya. You're just different. And different isn't bad. It's just different. But nobody wants to be my friend," she said. And the pain in her voice broke his heart. He stood up and walked to the corner of their living room. Maya heard him pulling off a dusty cover, and then she heard a sound that made her breath catch. Piano keys. Her father was playing their old piano, the one that had belonged to her grandmother. "Come here," he called softly. Maya made her way over, counting steps in her head. Her father lifted her onto the bench beside him. "Your grandmother used to say that music was a language everyone could understand," he said. "She taught me to play when I was your age. Now I want to teach you." He placed Maya's fingers on the keys. She felt the smooth, cool ivory beneath her fingertips. Her father pressed one key, and a single note rang out, pure and clear. "That's middle C," he told her. "Now you try." Maya pressed the key, and the note sang out again. Something stirred inside her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. She pressed another key, then another. Each one had its own voice, its own personality. Over the next few weeks, something changed in Maya. While school remained difficult, she had found something that was entirely hers. Every day after school, she would rush home and go straight to the piano. Her father taught her basic scales, simple songs, the fundamentals of music theory. But Maya didn't just want to play what was written. She wanted to create. She would sit at the piano and experiment, letting her fingers wander across the keys, listening to how different notes sounded together. She discovered that she could express feelings through music that she couldn't put into words. When she was sad, she played slow, minor melodies. When she was frustrated, her fingers pounded out angry, discordant sounds. When she was happy, rare as those moments were, she created bright, dancing tunes. Mrs. Chen, her music teacher at school, noticed Maya's growing interest during their weekly music class. One day, she asked Maya to stay after class. "I heard you've been learning piano," Mrs. Chen said kindly. "Would you play something for me?" Maya's first instinct was to refuse. The memory of the talent show mocking was still fresh, but something about Mrs. Chen's gentle voice made her trust the teacher. She sat at the classroom piano and played a simple piece her father had taught her. When she finished, Mrs. Chen was quiet. Then she said something that would change everything. "Maya, you have a gift. A real gift. I've been teaching music for 20 years, and I can hear something special in the way you play. You feel the music. You don't just play the notes." "Really?" Maya asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Really?" Mrs. Chen confirmed. "Would you like me to give you some additional lessons? Free of charge? I think you could be extraordinary." For the first time in months, Maya felt a spark of hope. Maybe she wasn't just the blind girl everyone pitied or mocked. Maybe she could be something more. Maybe she could be a musician. That night, she practiced longer than usual. Her fingers moved across the keys with growing confidence. She made mistakes, plenty of them, but she kept going. The piano didn't judge her. It didn't care that she couldn't see. It only cared about what she could create. Her mother stood in the doorway, listening. Tears streamed down her face as she heard her daughter finally finding joy in something. The music filled their small apartment, spilling out through the windows into the street below. Neighbors paused to listen. Something beautiful was being born. Maya didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning. The piano would become her voice, her strength, her way of showing the world that blindness wasn't weakness. But first, she had to learn, practice, and grow. And she had to survive the challenges that were still coming. The mockery that would get worse before it got better. The moments when she would want to give up entirely. But on that evening, with her fingers dancing across the piano keys and music filling the air around her, Maya smiled. For the first time since starting school, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Not in a classroom where she was different, but here, at the piano, where the only thing that mattered was the sound she could create. The journey ahead would be difficult, but Maya was stronger than she knew. And her music, that beautiful music, would eventually speak louder than any cruel words ever could. 3 years had passed since Maya first touched the piano keys, and now she was 11 years old. Her fingers had grown stronger, more confident. She could play complex pieces from memory, her hands moving across the keyboard like they had a mind of their own. Mrs. Chen had kept her promise, giving Maya extra lessons twice a week. The girl had absorbed everything like a sponge. But while Maya's musical talent had blossomed, her life at school had only gotten harder. Middle school was a different beast entirely. The kids were older now, and their cruelty had evolved from childish teasing to something much more calculated and mean. There was a group of popular girls who seemed to make it their mission to remind Maya every single day that she didn't belong. They would bump into her in the hallways and then laugh, pretending it was an accident. They would make comments just loud enough for her to hear, but quiet. Enough that teachers couldn't catch them. "Must be nice not having to worry about how you look," one of them said, while Maya was getting books from her locker. "Yeah. Ignorance is bliss, right?" another added, and they all giggled as they walked away. Maya gripped her locker door so hard, her knuckles turned white. She wanted to scream at them, to tell them that just because she couldn't see didn't mean she couldn't hear their poison. But she said nothing. She never said anything. The worst part was that she had started to believe them. When she looked in the mirror, which she did sometimes just to touch her own reflection, she wondered what she really looked like to other people. Was she ugly? Was that why nobody wanted to be around her? The thoughts consumed her during lunch periods when she sat alone. During gym class, when nobody picked her for their team, during every moment of every day. Then one afternoon, Mrs. Chen came to her with news. The school was organizing its annual talent show. and she thought Maya should participate. Absolutely not, Maya said immediately, her heart racing at the mere suggestion. Mrs. Chen sat down beside her. Maya, you've been working so hard. You ready? People need to hear what you can do. They'll just laugh at me, Maya said, remembering the piano in her living room where she felt safe, where nobody judged her. They won't laugh when they hear you play, Mrs. Chen insisted. I promise you, your music is powerful enough to change minds. Maya wanted to believe her teacher, but the fear was too strong. She had built walls around herself, thick ones, and the thought of tearing them down terrified her. Still, Mrs. Chen was persistent. Every day for a week, she gently encouraged Maya, never pushing too hard. Just planting seeds of possibility, finally, Maya agreed, though she regretted it the moment the words left her mouth. Mrs. Chen helped her sign up. And just like that, Maya's name was on the talent show roster. She had 2 weeks to prepare. Those 2 weeks were torture. Maya practiced until her fingers ached, but no matter how well she played at home, she couldn't shake the dread that filled her stomach whenever she thought about performing in front of the entire school. She barely slept. She barely ate. Her parents noticed but didn't know how to help. They encouraged her, told her she could back out if she wanted, but something stubborn inside Maya refused to quit. The day of the talent show arrived faster than she wanted. Maya wore her favorite blue dress, the one her mother said brought out her eyes, though Maya had never seen her own eye color. Her father drove her to school early, and Mrs. Chen met them backstage. You're going to be amazing, Mrs. Chen whispered, squeezing Maya's shoulder. Maya nodded, unable to speak. Her mouth was dry, and her hands were shaking. She could hear the auditorium filling up with students, teachers, and parents. The noise was overwhelming, hundreds of voices blending together into a wall of sound that made her feel small and exposed. The show began. Maya listened as other students performed. There was a dance routine that got huge cheers. A boy sang a popular song that had everyone clapping along. A comedy sketch that had people laughing so hard they could barely breathe. Each act seemed more confident than the last, and Maya felt herself shrinking further into her chair. Then she heard it. The announcement she'd been dreading. Next up, we have Maya performing a piano piece. The applause that followed was polite but scattered. Maya stood on shaky legs, and Mrs. Chen guided her to the stage entrance. From there, Maya had to walk alone. She tapped her cane, counting steps like she always did. 7 steps to the piano bench. But as she walked, she heard something that made her blood run cold. Laughter. Not the good kind. Not the kind you hear after a funny joke. This was mocking laughter, cruel and sharp. Oh great, this should be interesting, someone said loudly enough for everyone to hear. How's she even going to find the piano? Another voice called out, and more people laughed. Maya's steps faltered. She felt heat rushing to her face, and for a moment, she considered turning around and running off the stage. Her cane found the piano bench, and she sat down carefully, trying to block out the noise. Trying to remember why she was doing this. Can she even see the keys? Someone whispered loudly, and a new wave of giggles spread through the crowd. Maya's hands found the keyboard. But they were trembling so badly, she couldn't control them. She had practiced this piece 1,000 times. She knew every note, every rhythm, every nuance. But suddenly her mind went blank. The laughter continued, getting louder, more confident. Some students were making exaggerated movements, pretending to stumble around blindly, mocking her disability openly. She pressed the first key, and it came out wrong. Too harsh, too loud. She tried to continue, but her fingers wouldn't cooperate. The notes came out jumbled and awkward. She could feel the disaster unfolding, but couldn't stop it. The piece she had chosen was supposed to be beautiful and flowing. But what came out of the piano sounded mechanical and lifeless. The mocking didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. Every mistake she made was met with snickers and whispered comments. Maya felt tears burning behind her dark glasses. She pushed through, forcing herself to finish the piece, but by the end, she knew it had been a complete failure. When she played the final note, the applause was sparse and obviously forced. Most people were just relieved it was over. Maya stood up, and Mrs. Chin appeared at her side, guiding her off stage quickly. The moment they were in the hallway, Maya broke down completely. "I told you," she sobbed. "I told you they would laugh." Mrs. Chen held her while she cried, and Maya felt something inside her break. All the hope she had built up over 3 years of practice crumbled in that single performance. The piano had been her safe space, her sanctuary. And now even that felt tainted by the humiliation. Her parents picked her up early. The ride home was silent except for Maya's occasional sniffles. That night, she lay in bed, staring at the darkness that was her constant companion, and made a decision. She would never perform in public again. Never. The piano could stay in her living room where it belonged, where only her family could hear her play, where she was safe from the cruelty of the world. For the next 2 days, Maya didn't touch the piano at all. Her father would walk past and see her sitting on the couch, just sitting, doing nothing. Her mother tried to talk to her, but Maya had shut down completely. Even Mrs. Chen's phone calls went unanswered. On the 3rd day, her father sat beside her on the couch. "You know," he said quietly, "your grandmother used to say that the hardest steel is forged in the hottest fire." Maya said nothing. She also said that failure isn't falling down. It's refusing to get back up. "They laughed at me, Dad," Maya whispered, her voice broken. "They laughed at me because I'm blind, because I'm different, because I'll never be normal."
"Oh, sweetheart,"
her father said firmly. "They laughed because they're scared. Scared of what they don't understand. Scared of someone who experiences the world differently than they do. Their laughter says everything about them and nothing about you." Maya wanted to believe him, but the pain was too fresh, too raw. She went to bed that night feeling like she would never play piano again, never take another risk, never let herself be vulnerable. The world had shown her what happened when she dared to step outside her protective walls. And the lesson had been brutal. But sometimes, the darkest moments come right before the dawn. And Maya's story was far from over. 2 weeks had passed since the talent show disaster, and the piano sat untouched in the corner of the living room. Maya would walk past it every day, feeling its presence like a silent accusation. Her father had draped the cover back over it, respecting her unspoken wish to pretend it didn't exist. School had become even more unbearable. The popular girls now had fresh ammunition, and they used it liberally. They would hum off keynotes when she walked by, then burst into laughter. Someone had even recorded her failed performance on their phone, and though the video was taken down quickly, the damage was done. Maya knew people had seen it, shared it, laughed at it. She stopped going to Mrs. Chen's extra lessons. When the music teacher called, Maya's mother had to make excuses. "She's not feeling well, or she has too much homework." Everyone knew the real reason, but nobody pushed. They were all walking on eggshells around her. And Maya hated that too. One afternoon, Maya was sitting in the school library during lunch, her fingers trailing across a braille book she wasn't really reading, when someone sat down beside her. She tensed, expecting another cruel comment, another jab at her expense. "You don't know me," a girl's voice said softly, "but I was at the talent show." Maya's stomach dropped. Here it comes, she thought. Another person wanting to remind her of her failure. "I wanted to tell you something," the girl continued. "I could hear what you were trying to play. Before the nerves got to you, before everything fell apart. Those first few notes, they were beautiful." Maya didn't know what to say. Nobody had said anything kind about that performance. "My name is Lily," the girl said. "I play violin. Not very well, but I love it. I know what it's like when people don't take you seriously." Over the next few days, Lily kept showing up. She would sit with Maya at lunch talking about music, about her own struggles with performance anxiety, about anything and everything. She didn't treat Maya like she was fragile or broken. She just treated her like a person. "Should start playing again," Lily said one day, completely out of nowhere. "No," Maya said firmly. "I'm done with that." "Why?" "Because some idiots laughed." "Maya, I've been laughed at too. Last year, my violin string broke during a recital. The year before, I forgot my entire piece halfway through." "It happens to everyone. It's different for me," Maya insisted. "They weren't laughing because I messed up. They were laughing because I'm blind." Lily was quiet for a moment. You're right.
Eck.
That is different, and it's not fair.
Eck.
But are you really going to let them take away something you love? Are you going to give them that much power over you? The question hit Maya harder than she expected. Was that what she was doing? Letting those cruel kids steal her music from her? That night, Maya lay in bed thinking about what Lily had said. She thought about the 3 years she had spent learning piano, the joy it had brought her, the way it made her feel alive. She thought about her grandmother, who she had never met, but who had loved music enough to pass it down through her father. She thought about all the hours of practice, all the small victories, all the moments when the piano had been her only friend, and slowly something began to shift inside her. The next morning, before anyone else was awake, Maya made her way to the living room. She pulled the cover off the piano, her hands shaking slightly, sat down on the bench, and for a long moment, she just sat there, her fingers hovering over the keys. Then she pressed one key. It'll see the note rang out, clear and pure in the quiet morning air. She pressed another, then another. Slowly, hesitantly, she began to play a simple scale. Her fingers remembered the movements, even after 2 weeks of silence. Her father appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas. He didn't say anything, didn't interrupt. He just stood there listening, a smile spreading across his face. Over the next few weeks, Maya started playing again, but something had changed. She wasn't playing to please anyone anymore, not even herself. She was playing because she needed to, because the music inside her demanded to come out. She started composing her own pieces, something she had never tried before. She would sit at the piano and let her feelings flow through her fingers, turning her pain, her anger, her loneliness into sound. Mrs. Chen heard through the grapevine that Maya was playing again. She showed up at their apartment one Saturday afternoon with a proposition. "There's a regional youth music competition in 3 months," Mrs. Chen said. "I think you should enter." Maya's first instinct was to refuse, but Mrs. Chen held up her hand. "Before you say no, just listen. This isn't like the school talent show. This is serious. Real musicians competing, real judges who understand music. Nobody there is going to laugh at you. They're going to judge you purely on your talent." "I don't know if I'm ready," Maya said quietly. "You're more ready than you think," Mrs. Chen replied. "But more importantly, I think you need this. You need to prove to yourself that what happened at school was just a bunch of ignorant kids being cruel. You need to show yourself what you're really capable of." Maya talked it over with her parents that night. Her mother was worried, afraid of seeing her daughter hurt again. But her father surprised everyone. "I think you should do it," he said. "Not for them, not for the judges, not even to prove anything to those kids at school. Do it for you. Do it because you're a musician, and musicians perform."
Yes.
The next 3 months were intense. Maya practiced like never before. She worked on the piece she had tried to perform at the talent show, determined to master it completely. But she also worked on her own composition, the one she had been developing. She called it Unseen, and it was everything she had ever wanted to say, but couldn't put into words. Mrs. Chen pushed her harder than ever before. They worked on performance anxiety, on staying calm under pressure, on trusting her muscle memory even when her mind tried to interfere. They practiced in different rooms, with different pianos, under different conditions. Mrs. Chen even brought in some of her friends to sit and watch. Getting Maya used to performing in front of people again, Lily came over to study with Maya several times a week, and slowly, cautiously, Maya started to feel like she had a real friend. They would practice together sometimes, Lily on her violin and Maya on piano, And in those moments, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt normal, not in spite of her blindness, but including it. It was just part of who she was, not the only thing she was. At school, the bullying continued, but Maya found she could tune it out better now. She had something bigger to focus on, something more important than the opinions of people who didn't matter. When the popular girls made their comments, Maya would think about her music, about the competition, about proving to herself that she was more than what they saw. The night before the competition, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, her mind racing through every note of her pieces, every possible thing that could go wrong. But underneath the anxiety, there was something else. Excitement. For the first time since the talent show disaster, she actually wanted to perform. She wanted to show people what she could really do. Her father knocked on her door around midnight. "Can't sleep either?" asked. Maya shook her head. He sat on the edge of her bed. "Your grandmother used to get nervous before performances too. She told me once that nerves meant you cared. If you weren't nervous, it would mean it didn't matter to you." "It matters," Maya whispered. "It matters so much. I know, sweetheart. And tomorrow, you're going to walk onto that stage, and you're going to show them what real talent looks like. Not because you have something to prove, but because you're a musician. It's what you were meant to do." The next morning, Maya woke up early. She got dressed carefully, choosing an outfit her mother said made her look professional and confident. She ate breakfast, even though her stomach was in knots. She ran through her pieces one last time on the piano at home, her fingers steady and sure. As they drove to the competition venue, Maya felt a strange calm settling over her. This was different from the school talent show. This time, she knew what she was walking into. It's time she was ready. The real test was about to begin. And Maya was no longer the scared little girl who had run off that stage in tears. She had been broken down, but she had built herself back up. Stronger, more determined, and absolutely ready to let her music speak for itself. The competition venue was nothing like Maya had imagined. The building was massive, and she could hear the echo of footsteps bouncing off high ceilings. Her father held her arm gently as they walked through the entrance, and Mrs. Chen walked beside them, explaining everything she saw. "There are about 200 people here already," Mrs. Chen said quietly. "Families, competitors, judges. Everyone looks so professional." Maya's heart started pounding harder. 200 people. That was more than the school talent show. Way more. For a moment, she felt the old panic creeping back. But she forced herself to breathe slowly, like Mrs. Chen had taught her. They found the registration desk, and a kind woman checked Maya in. She was competitor number 17 out of 30. The woman handed her a program in Braille, and Maya's fingers traced over the names of the other competitors. Some of them were from prestigious music schools. Some had won competitions before. Maya felt very small suddenly. "You belong here," Mrs. Chen whispered, reading her mind. "Don't forget that." They were directed to a waiting area backstage where competitors could warm up and prepare. Maya could hear piano music coming from one of the practice rooms, and it was incredible. Whoever was playing had clearly been training for years. The notes flowed together like water, effortless and perfect. "That's just warm-up?" Maya whispered to Mrs. Chen, and she could hear the doubt in her own voice. "Everyone here is good," Mrs. Chen said firmly. "But you have something special, Maya. You feel the music in a way that can't be taught. Trust yourself." Lily had come along for support, and she squeezed Maya's hand. "You've got this. I've heard you play. These judges are in for something amazing." The competition began right on schedule. Maya listened as the first competitor was announced. A boy named Daniel, who was 14, playing a classical piece by Chopin. Maya sat in the wings where she could hear everything clearly. Daniel's performance was technically perfect, every note precise and clean. The audience applauded enthusiastically when he finished. Then came a girl playing Beethoven, another boy with Mozart, each one better than the last. Maya listened to them all, and with each performance, she felt her confidence wavering. These weren't school kids messing around. These were serious musicians who had dedicated their lives to their craft. "I can't do this," Maya whispered to Mrs. Chen during a break between competitors. Did you hear them? They're incredible. So are you, Mrs. Chen said. Maya, you're not trying to play like them. You're going to play like you. That's what makes you special. The minutes ticked by like hours. Maya's hands were sweating, and she kept wiping them on her dress. She ran through her piece mentally, over and over, terrified she would forget something crucial. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she heard the announcement. Next, we have competitor number 17, Maya, who will be performing an original composition titled Unseen. This was it. No turning back now, Mrs. Chen walked Maya to the stage entrance. Remember, she whispered, they can't see your nervousness. They can only hear your music. Let it speak for you. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. She tapped her cane and began counting steps. The stage was quiet now, everyone waiting. Unlike the school talent show, there was no mocking laughter, no cruel comments, just respectful silence. But somehow, that made it even more intimidating. She found the piano bench and sat down carefully. She placed her cane beside her, out of the way. Her fingers found the keys, and she took one long, deep breath, then another. Her grandmother's piano at home had a slightly sticky middle E key. This piano was perfect, every key smooth and responsive. It felt foreign and familiar all at once. And then she began to play. The piece started soft, almost whisper quiet. Single notes, slow and deliberate, like someone walking alone in darkness. This was her childhood, her loneliness, her isolation. The melody was melancholic, but there was something beautiful in it too, something haunting. As her fingers moved, Maya felt something shift inside her. The audience disappeared. The judges disappeared. Even her nervousness disappeared. There was only the music in her, the way it had always been when she played alone at home. Her fingers knew what to do, and she let them lead. The piece began to build. The tempo increased gradually, and she introduced new harmonies. This section represented the mockery, the cruel words, the pain of being different. The notes became sharper, more dissonant, creating tension that made people in the audience lean forward in their seats. Maya's hands moved faster now, dancing across the keys with a confidence she hadn't known she possessed. She wasn't thinking about technique anymore, wasn't worried about making mistakes. She was just feeling. The piano was translating those feelings into sound. Then came the turning point in her composition, the moment where everything changed. The harsh dissonance resolved into something new. The melody transformed into something powerful and triumphant. This was her, finding the piano, finding her voice, finding herself. The music swelled, filling the entire auditorium with rich, complex harmonies that seemed to paint pictures in the air. In the audience, people were mesmerized. Parents who had come to watch their own children forgot about everything else. Other competitors stopped their warm-ups to listen. The judges, who had spent all day listening to technically perfect but emotionally distant performances, sat up straighter, their pens forgotten. Maya's father had tears streaming down his face. He had known his daughter was talented, but this was something else entirely. This was art. This was a soul speaking through music. The final section of her piece was both sad and hopeful at the same time. It represented acceptance, understanding that being different wasn't a weakness, but a unique way of experiencing the world. The notes became gentler again, more reflective. Maya played with such emotion that you could feel every ounce of her journey in those sounds, and then, with one final, delicate note that hung in the air like a question, she finished. For 3 full seconds, there was absolute silence. Maya sat frozen at the piano, her hands still resting on the keys, wondering if she had done something wrong. Had she messed up? Had they hated it? Then the auditorium exploded. The applause started like thunder and didn't stop. People weren't just clapping politely. They were on their feet, giving her a standing ovation. Maya heard someone shouting "Bravo!" over and over. She heard people crying. Not tears of mockery, but tears of genuine emotion. She stood up shakily, not quite believing what was happening. Mrs. Chen appeared at her side, grabbing her hand and squeezing it so hard it almost hurt. Maya, They loved it, Mrs. Chen said, and Maya could hear that her teacher was crying too. They absolutely loved it. Maya let Mrs. Chen guide her off the stage, and as they walked, the applause continued. It felt surreal, like she was in a dream. Other competitors were waiting in the wings, and several of them came up to her immediately. "That was incredible," one girl said. "I've never heard anything like that." "How did you compose something so beautiful?" a boy asked. Maya didn't know what to say. She had just poured her heart out in front of 200 strangers, and they had actually understood. They had heard her story, felt her pain, celebrated her triumph. Her parents found her backstage, both of them hugging her so tight she could barely breathe. "I'm so proud of you," her father kept saying. So proud. But the competition wasn't over yet. There were still 13 more competitors to go, and then the judges would deliberate and announce the winners. Maya tried to calm her racing heart as she listened to the remaining performances. They were all good, some of them technically more advanced than her piece. But Maya had done something different. She had made people feel something real. The wait for the results felt endless. Maya sat between her parents, holding both their hands, her leg bouncing nervously. Lily sat behind them, leaning forward every few minutes to whisper encouragement. Finally, after all 30 competitors had performed, the head judge took the stage. He was an older man with a deep, commanding voice. "This year's competition has showcased some of the most talented young musicians in the region," he began. "Our judges had a very difficult decision to make." Maya's heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it.
Ow.
"Before we announce the winners, I want to say something about competitor number 17. The judge paused, and Maya felt her breath catch. "In my 30 years of judging music competitions, I have rarely heard something so emotionally powerful. This young lady didn't just play music. She told us a story, she shared her soul with us, and she reminded us all why music matters." Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks behind her dark glasses. "Now for the results," the judge continued. "Third place goes to Daniel Chen for his interpretation of Chopin." Applause filled the room. Maya clapped too, her hands trembling. "Second place goes to Rebecca Wu for her performance of Rachmaninoff." More applause. Maya's mother squeezed her hand tighter. "In first place, with a unanimous decision from all 5 judges, goes to competitor number 17, Maya. For her original composition, Unseen, the world seemed to stop spinning for a moment." Maya couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she had just heard. First place. Unanimous decision. She had won. Her father lifted her to her feet, and suddenly everyone was cheering again. Mrs. Chen was openly sobbing. Lily was screaming with joy. Maya walked to the stage in a daze, and someone placed a medal around her neck and a trophy in her hands. The medal was cool and heavy, and it felt more real than anything else in that moment. She had done it. She had taken her pain, her struggles, her difference, and she had turned it into something beautiful. Something that made people stop and listen and feel. The girl who had been mocked, who had been told she didn't belong, had just proven everyone wrong in the most powerful way possible. And this was only the beginning. The ride home from the competition felt like floating on clouds. Maya sat in the back seat of her father's car, the trophy resting on her lap, her fingers tracing over the engraved words again and again. First place. Regional Youth Music Competition. Her name was on it, permanently etched into metal. Proof that it had really happened. "I still can't believe it," she whispered for the 10th time. Her mother turned around from the front seat. Maya could hear the smile in her voice. "Believe it, sweetheart. You earned every bit of that." But as the excitement started to settle, a new feeling crept in. Anxiety. Because tomorrow she would have to go back to school. Back to the place where she had been humiliated, where those same kids who had mocked her would still be waiting. A trophy wouldn't change that, would it? That night, Maya barely slept. She kept replaying both performances in her mind. The disaster at the school talent show and the triumph at the competition. 2 completely different outcomes for the same girl playing the same instrument. What had changed? She had changed, Maya realized. She had stopped playing for their approval and started playing for herself. Monday morning came too quickly. Maya got ready for school slowly, her stomach churning with nerves. Her father noticed her hesitation at breakfast. "You know, he said you don't have to tell anyone at school about the competition if you don't want to." But Maya shook her head. "No, I'm not hiding anymore. If they want to mock me, let them. I know what I can do now." Walking through the school hallways that morning felt different. Maya held her head higher, her cane tapping with more confidence. She could feel people staring, but she didn't shrink away from it like she used to. By third period, word had somehow spread. Mrs. Chen had apparently mentioned the competition to other teachers. And news traveled fast in a small school. When Maya walked into her English class, the teacher stopped mid-sentence. "Maya, I heard you won a major music competition this weekend. Is that true?" Maya felt every eye in the classroom turn toward her. Here we go, she thought. But she wasn't going to apologize for her success. Not anymore, as she said simply. First place. There was a moment of stunned silence, and then someone started clapping. Then another person joined in. Soon, most of the class was applauding, and Maya stood there, completely shocked. These were the same kids who had either ignored her or joined in the mockery. But something had shifted. At lunch, something even stranger happened. People actually approached her table. Not to mock her, but to ask about the competition. Some seemed genuinely curious. Others were probably just jumping on the bandwagon, wanting to be associated with someone who had accomplished something. Maya could tell the difference, but she answered their questions anyway. The popular girls, the ones who had made her life miserable for years, kept their distance. Maya would catch snippets of their conversations as they passed. "I heard she won some piano thing." "Yeah, apparently she's actually good." Whatever. It's probably not a big deal. Her comments didn't sting like they used to. Maya realized something important. Their opinions didn't matter anymore because she had proven something to herself, not to them. Their validation, or lack of it, couldn't touch what she had achieved. But the best part came during music. Class. Mrs. Chen asked Maya to play something for the class. And for the first time in years, Maya felt excited rather than terrified to perform at school. She played a shorter piece, not her composition, but something beautiful nonetheless. When she finished, the applause was genuine. Even the kids who had mocked her before seemed impressed, though some looked uncomfortable, probably remembering how cruel they had been. After class, one of the boys who had hidden her cane that awful day approached her hesitantly. "Hey, Maya," he said, his voice uncertain. "That was really good. And I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For being such a jerk to you before, that was messed up." Maya was so surprised she didn't know what to say at first. An apology was the last thing she had expected. "Thank you," she finally managed. "That means a lot." Wasn't much, but it was something. Not everyone apologized, and Maya didn't need them to. She was learning that forgiveness was more for herself than for them anyway. Holding on to anger and hurt only weighed her down. The week after the competition, something unexpected happened. A local newspaper wanted to do a story about Maya. Then a TV station called. Her performance had touched people, and they wanted to know more about the girl who had turned her disability into something powerful. Maya was nervous about the attention, but her parents helped her navigate it carefully. The interviews focused on her music, her journey, and her message. And Maya found she had a lot to say. "Being blind isn't easy," she told one reporter. "People treat you differently. They either pity you or they mock you. But I learned that I'm not defined by what I can't do. I'm defined by what I choose to do with what I have." The story aired on the local news, and suddenly, Maya wasn't just known in her school anymore. People in her community recognized her. Other kids with disabilities reached out to her through social media, thanking her for being an inspiration. It was overwhelming and humbling at the same time. But the real change came from within. Maya started noticing how differently she moved through the world. She spoke up more in class. She smiled more often. She stopped apologizing for taking up space. The walls she had built around herself for protection started coming down, brick by brick. Lily remained her closest friend, but others started joining them at lunch. A small group formed, kids who appreciated Maya for who she was, not despite her blindness, but including it. They would study together, hang out after school, and sometimes They would just sit and listen to Maya play piano. One afternoon, about a month after the competition, Mrs. Chen approached Maya with another opportunity. "There's a prestigious music school that wants to offer you a scholarship," she said, excitement clear in her voice. "It's a summer program for gifted young musicians. Room, board, and tuition all covered. You'd work with some of the best instructors in the country." Maya's parents were thrilled, but they left the decision up to her. The old Maya would have been too scared to go, too worried about being in a new place without her familiar routines. But the new Maya saw it for what it was, an opportunity to grow, to challenge herself, to become even better. "I want to do it," Maya said without hesitation. That summer program changed her life again. She met other young musicians from around the country, many of whom had their own struggles and challenges. She learned new techniques, explored different styles of music, and grew not just as a musician but as a person. When she returned home at the end of summer, she was different. More confident, more skilled, more sure of her place in the world. She started giving small concerts at community centers and nursing homes. She volunteered to teach basic piano to younger kids with disabilities. Wanting to pass on the gift that music had given her, high school brought new challenges. But Maya faced them with a strength she hadn't known she possessed. She won more competitions. She composed more music. She even started a music club at school that welcomed everyone, regardless of skill level or ability. The popular girls who had once made her life miserable eventually faded into the background. Some of them even came around not becoming close friends, but at least showing respect. Maya learned that people who hurt others are usually dealing with their own insecurities and pain. Understanding that didn't excuse their behavior, but it helped her let go of the anger she had carried for so long. On the anniversary of her first competition win, Maya's school held a special assembly. They wanted to honor her achievements and share her story with younger students. Standing on that same stage where she had once been mocked and humiliated, Maya felt a strange sense of completion. She played unseen for them the piece that had started everything. But this time the auditorium was silent with respect, not cruelty. When she finished, the standing ovation lasted so long that the principal had to quiet everyone down.